Hello and welcome all you green thumb enthusiasts. My name is Zakaya, I am the one and only apprentice here at Oderings Nurseries, and all I'm doing today is showing you guys a couple tips on how to prepare your blueberry bush for the next season. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is trimming or pruning your blueberry bush. It's a good habit to do this every June or July in the middle of winter before any new spring growth can start to form. And not only does this encourage full new shoots from the base of the plant, which is always going to create a stronger plant, but it also encourages all the fruit and all the berries on the second year canes to grow bigger and stronger. The golden rule with trimming generally anything back is always look for the diseased or damaged branches first. Now, a really good example of that in blueberries is this right here. Now this is called leaf curl. This is pretty common in blueberries and lemons and stuff like that, and this is a virus that's transmitted by sap-sucking insects such as like aphids and thrip and whitefly, mites, and those are the first things that you want to cut off. The reason why you want to cut all this stuff off first is because when plants get hit by a virus or a disease, or even just caterpillars munching on the leaves, they will always shoot out stress pheromones, and that's always going to let all the surrounding insects and bugs and stuff that this plant is weaker than the rest and to come for this guy first. Now that we've cut off all the diseased and dead branches, the next thing that I want to sort out is this crisscross formation that all the inner foliage is starting to grow into. Now the only reason I want to get rid of all of this stuff in here is because when you do water your plant, all that water ends up sitting on all the leaves that are in the middle down here, and because they're so tightly packed and they're not spaced out, or there's not enough light or air circulation to actually go through each leaf and push it off and dry them off, so they end up getting diseased and getting molds such as grey mold like botrytis and sticky mold and stuff like that. So what you want to do is just completely stop that. Now what I like to do is I like to cut just to the end to the collar, and that'll help it heal and it will grow a new lateral out just from there. And as you can already tell, you're already opening that up so much. And you want to do it around all the smaller leaves, and even this guy down here, like, he seems okay, but he would do a lot better, and there'd be a lot more light coming through if I shot him down just a bit. And you can already tell just by that, that is a huge difference. Get that guy off. And any long straggly parts, we're going to get to that next, but if it's right in the middle there and it's just growing off like that and bouncing around and it's all loose, get rid of it. It's not going to do anything. When berries start to grow on that, it's going to push down so far it'll just shoot off itself and die and waste a lot of energy. Get rid of that guy. And then you can already tell, now I can even put my hand through here, all the light is going to be able to shine on all these plants down here. Ooh, here's a dead. And always look out for all the dead branches like that. They're hiding around. Always get rid of them, because it's going to spend so much energy trying to fix and trying to grow around that one branch when you could just stop it and just start anew. And already that's just a huge difference. And sometimes if you get branches that are like growing inwards but they're pretty small, you can always just give them a little push outwards and help them actually grow out. So instead of a weird crisscross formation growing inwards, the plant's actually growing out like a crown and going outwards, so all the sun can hit right in the middle and get all the foliage for an even amount of photosynthesis. For the final stage of trimming back this blueberry bush, all I'm doing now is purely trimming back for energy redirection. So I'm not trimming back any foliage or any branches to let light or air circulate through anymore. I've already done that. Now I'm only cutting back to where I want the new laterals to grow and all the new growth to grow next season. The thing I'm starting with is the crown here, the crown cane. Now this is obviously the oldest part of the plant as it's already trying to grow fruit, and it's the second year wood, so now it's tried to grow fruit this year and miserably failed. So what I want to do is redirect all of that energy that it's trying to produce in growing fruit, and I'm just cutting it down to the nearest growth tip, because this part, this lateral here is already shot out and it's already got growth. Obviously it'll be a little bit different in the middle of winter, but when you have a live plant like this, if you have a little growth like that, keep it going and keep encouraging it to just grow on that. Depending on what kind of plant structure you want to grow, people would tip up in here, this guy here, even though he's not growing any fruit or anything, people would tip that so that he would grow bushier and grow outwards more, and it's called tipping, when you tip the complete crown, the growing tip of the plant. I'm going to cut around here all these big swingy parts, because as it starts to grow fruit this year, coming on because it's the second year stuff now, it's going to start bending down and down and down until it's going to snap off. Same thing with all the smaller branches in here. Same thing with that one. Get rid of that. So what I'm going to do here is I want to create a bit of a, not a canopy, I want to have it different sizes. So this guy here I'm going to go pretty short, and that is pretty bloody short, to be honest. And that's the shortest I'm going to go for that guy. And I'm going to make them all a separate height, just because when it does grow out, it's not going to get an even shade of, when the light comes around, it's not going to shade off evenly in the middle. So light is still going to be able to pass through in each angle because it's all different sizes and shapes. And now you want to make sure you don't want to cut off too much foliage, just because the plant will go into a lot of stress, and you won't get as many fruit, as big a yield of fruit, compared to when you do cut it though, especially if it's like a big thick branch like that, all the fruit that's going to grow on here is going to be like double the size, taste 1,000 times tastier, and you're not going to get stuff like overcropping, which is just blueberries everywhere, and before they fully ripen up they turn yellow and fall off because it doesn't have enough energy to keep growing on the fruit. That's called overcropping, and you want to always avoid that. And then this guy over here, he's not too bad. I'm honestly going to keep him the second highest. I'm just going to keep him back down here, and you just want to always go back to a growing tip, always cutting on an angle. Because when you cut on an angle, if water ever runs down, the water will hit and run down completely. It won't sit in the middle there, compared to if you cut it like that, a water drop sitting in there is going to rot out the whole plant. But that way, it's always going to flow off. So that is a big must do. And now the plant looks a little bit more scraggly, and a lot of people will think it's a bit harsh, but all that new growth now, it's all going to start in here, and it's going to bushen out. And each part is going to bushen out completely into a nice big crown. And then you've got the middle part here catching sunlight and growing the base of the plant. And because this is a bit of a younger blueberry, you wouldn't expect to be growing a massive amount of fruit this year or next year, as you would put it. You'd want to cut it back again and let it grow its vegetative side, its foliage first, because the bigger plant you have, the more flowers it's going to grow, and the more flowers, the more fruit. Now that all the trimming back and pruning is done, we need to focus on re-feeding our soil for the next season. Now, a lot of people tend to over-maintain their soil and their plants, and that's they're usually where the problems come from, is they're overfeeding or overwatering or something like that, or overcutting, cutting more than once a year. And the biggest thing you want to see is your plant will tell you when it's hungry. All of the bottom leaves, usually with nitrogen deficiencies and stuff, which are the main one, they will all start to go yellow from the bottom and start losing their foliage from the bottom below. It's a big sign, and you will definitely notice when it's hungry. If it's not hungry, don't feed it. Don't fix something that's not broke. That is where a lot of people go wrong, and they start to get toxicities of kinds. Now, one thing about blueberries is their roots are extremely sensitive to nitrate. So if you're buying a granular or a long-term granular fertilizer for your soil, you can use stuff like acid food, just general acid food that feeds rhododendrons and camellias and azaleas and stuff like that. They work too. But you always want to talk to your retail about whether or not you're growing in containers like this, in pots, or in big garden beds, because all the fertilizers depend on how much space they have. Two usual ways of feeding all my plants at home and at work are either liquid based or done with Triabon, just a general quick release fertilizer. So it does not have a coating, so if you lay a bit of this out and water it in, it's instantly going to let the nutrients go out. It's not going to wait for a certain temperature or a certain amount of time before it starts to open up, which is perfect. And it's general. It's about 16 nitrogen, 3.5 phosphorus, and 10 potassium. And it's got trace elements in it as well. And that is honestly just a general fertilizer that you need to give your plants a good boost for about 3 to 4 months. Now, if you want to be more on the control side, which I like to be as well, I like to be for my strawberries especially, the liquid feeding is the one for you, especially by Thrive Yates. And it actually tells you different rates for flowering and fruiting. So when you actually want to grow all the flowers and all the fruit at a certain time, when it's hot or when you know the weather's going to be great or you know you're going to have a great yield, compared to all other times, which is just growing for the roots, for the foliage, and just general plant growth, just the vegetative growth itself. A lot of the times when growing plants, and especially high yielding plants like this, less is more. Let your plants fully dry out, let your plants fully eat all the food they have before replacing it. There we go. I hope that helps just a little bit at least, just general information on how to maintain your blueberry bush each year, pruning and refeeding for the new fruiting season. And then maybe you guys can even bring in a bowl of blueberries for us to try over at Oderings. Thank you so much. Until next time.